Good morning, good morning. Technical difficulties. Okay, this is our final segment on mental health because this is May's Mental Health Awareness Month. And today we're going to be talking about stigma, self care, and treatment. Michael, don't get started. As stated, mental health is a person's emotional, psychological, and social well being. It's an essential part of health and it affects how people think, feel, and act. Mental health is just as important as physical health and affects how we live our lives. Our mental health impacts how we feel, think, behave, as well as our ability to function and contribute to society. It can also affect our relationship with friends and family. Mental illness stigma. Stigma refers to negative attitudes, beliefs, and stereotypes people may hold towards those who experience mental health conditions. You've all seen them, heard them all the time, all the time. Yes. Yeah, cray cray, it's all. Mental health conditions are common and more treatments are available than ever to help people cope, recover, and thrive. However, stigma can prevent or delay people from seeking care or cause them to discontinue treatment. Because imagine if you receive the diagnosis of mental illness, of a mental disorder. Are you going to share that? How comfortable are you with how society is? Mm-hmm. Yes. Stigma may also drive negative attitudes and beliefs surrounding mental health, which can affect motivation to seek mental health treatment and care. People living with mental health conditions have experienced stigma across many generations, cultures, and societies, especially like the black community. I'm just pointing out because I'm black. And the black church. I'm not in those other communities, so I can't speak on them. Yeah, everybody around I see. Uh, he trying to be funny, so he don't want Mike to show. And media, the media always portray them as, in a bad light. So, like you said, it's good to have a support system. So, family, friends, where you're comfortable.
Do you think that mental, what's the proper term? Illness. Okay. Do you think that the stigma with mental illness is more prevalent in African American communities and other communities? And if so,
Why?
Why do you think that is?
I don't know if it's more prevalent. I think it is there because, you hear in the, well, I can say me, I've heard in the black church that you're not saved, or you need to pray, you don't have a prayer life, you are not really saved, you don't have the Holy Ghost. It's a lot of that. I heard, I've heard all of these things. All you got to do is pray and you're going to be okay. And if you don't pray it out, then you're not really saved.
Mm.
That's why I said it's really funny how you hear and people in the church says, oh, I got sugar, or I got the author. They have no shame in saying they got author and sugar.
But that's not associated with like.
But it's still
illness,
still an organ in your body that's not functioning, 100%.
Yeah.
Your pancreas, your joints, whatever. There's still something in your body that's not 100%. So you got to think of it like that. And if you think of it that way, It's just an organ in your body that's not 100%, functioning, that might need some extra. And I'm going to get through, and I think I spoke it, I think it was last week, that many things can attribute to being, diagnosed with mental illness. Extreme stress can affect you. We even talked about work burnout.
Mm-hmm.
That can attribute, death, sudden traumas. You get traumas. And if you have a lot of trauma, prolonged trauma, a lot of that can affect your mental well-being. And if you stay in it, if you don't receive help immediately, that's what I said last week, it can be, my suggestion is to get a complete physical, because sometimes you can have a physical disorder that might manifest like a mental disorder.
No,
So,
that's interesting.
yes. You want me to give you an example?
If you could, yeah.
Okay, I can give you an example. Diabetes. When I was working in mental health, in the city, there was so many agencies that was working with mental health, and they had some studies, and they found out that they were checking with the homeless, and they discovered that some of these people who they thought were mentally ill was just diabetic, and they weren't getting the insulin. It can manifest in that way. Because I had a conversation. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I had a conversation with a young woman one time, and I knew she was diabetic. Okay, I can't. I knew she was diabetic, and she was just doing some outlandish things, and I was sitting next to her, and I asked her, does she think that she is getting enough insulin? And she says no. I says, I agree. You need to go have that checked. So there's a lot of things that can be happening physically, but it can manifest in other ways. Evangelist.
And to add on to that, when you have an overwhelming sense or feeling of anxiety, the racing thoughts, and just that restlessness at night, I recently found out that is a B1 deficiency in the body. And if you are low, then you have that tendency to have that racing mind and restlessness at night. I'm recently finding that out.
That's why I said last week that if you do feel sure in these signs, go get a physical, a complete physical workup, because it can show, your nutrition level, your minerals, you're lacking in something, and that can also show that it's something, and it's not just that. Because when I was working in mental health, one day I just started looking through all the files, a lot of the files, and I said, everybody is diagnosed with schizophrenic. There's nothing else. Everybody's just, it was like, okay, you schizophrenic. Okay, you schizophrenic. You guys, it was like, there's nothing else. Everything is just one-stop shop. I just was, something just didn't seem right, and
And if I could add on to that, just think about if you can't sleep at night and how you won't be able to function during the day because you haven't had adequate rest. You haven't had sufficient sleep. Your brain doesn't have that time to shut down, and it hasn't had that time to rest, and you're just trying to just go on and on and on. After a week, after 2 weeks, how well do you think you'll be?
that is a disorder.
Exactly.
Where people cannot sleep.
Exactly.
I appreciate this because I've been trying to find excuses for some of the stuff that I do. So,
Ain't none.
you be quiet. So
I'm not doing the psyche valor. You're not. I'm not.
I need. We gonna have to have a session.
Okay. Although there is more understanding and acceptance today about mental health conditions, many individuals and communities still hold negative attitudes or beliefs about those living with mental health conditions. Mental health stigma can take many forms. Structural stigma involving laws, regulations, and policies that can limit the rights of those with mental health conditions. Public stigma, which include negative attitudes and beliefs from individuals or from larger groups towards people with mental health conditions or their families or healthcare providers that care for them. When there's someone who is struggling with a mental health condition, it's not just that person. It affects the entire family. And sometimes the family can get burnt out, so to say. And they, I can't deal with this anymore, because it can be taxing. Because a lot of times they don't like the medication, and that's why I said last week, I think it was, if you have a friend who have a diagnosis, get comfortable with them, ask questions, learn about it, so that you can be that safe space for them, and you might be the one who can talk to them and say, because I personally think if you have a diagnosis and you're going to the doctor, you need to have somebody there who sees you, because some of them have a lot of side effects, and you may see it, but they don't see it. They don't know that they're exhibiting these various things. Good morning, Jackie Hines. Welcome. So they may not know that they are exhibiting or showing these different side effects. And there is not, psychotropic drugs is not a one-stop shop. It has to be tailored to you. It's not like, okay, you got this diagnosis, take this pill. They've gotten better, because it was like you almost like a zombie, but there are so many out here. So it's not and I don't believe in, there's these natural alternative medications, or whatever you can call it. I remember in class, we were talking about the various alternatives to prescribed medication, and my stance on that was I was not in agreement with that, because first of all, you don't know how much is in there, you don't know what's in there, and you don't know how much you need or how it would affect you. So I'm not in agreement with trying something natural for that, because it's a lot at stake. Because if you're not getting the right treatment, it can send you down further into a dark place that you may be able to get out of. Self-stigma, which comes from within the person with mental health condition. People living with mental health condition may believe they are flawed or blame themselves for having the condition. And that, they take that on, the negative, because they see it. They see how people think about it or what they say about it, so, and they may, the shame, you, like I say, if you have problems, oh, I can't eat that, I have diabetes, or I'm doing this, I got this, or I got, I was talking to someone a long time ago who was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, and she had this self-shame. She was, I was talking to her, and I was trying, because anyone that I talk to who has it, I'm going to talk to them about their diagnosis, if they understand it, and their medication, and do they know what they're taking and how much they have to take. So this young woman, I was talking to her, and I don't know, we got onto television, and she was talking about her favorite soap opera. I said, okay, who's your favorite character? And she was talking about General Hospital. And she said, I like Sonny. I said, do you know he has a diagnosis of bipolar disorder in real life? And he takes his medication, so he's able to live a life, a functioning life. And she, I didn't know that. So that was her visual, understanding that, okay, I can take my medication. If I take my medication, then I might can live a uncomfortable life. You know, when stigma leads to discrimination, people living with mental health conditions may be treated negatively. For example, people may experience being excluded by others in their social group due to their mental health conditions. The harmful effects of stigma. Some of the effects of stigma include feelings of shame, hopelessness, and isolation. Isolation can exacerbate. You see what happened on the shut-in, from COVID. You saw a lot of people who, I don't know if they had been previously diagnosed with mental illness, but it exacerbated because it was like, wow, you saw a lot of it. The isolation is,
That isolation created divorce. We had an increase of child abuse cases during the COVID because mom had to deal with
That
those kids
isolation
all
didn't
day
create divorce.
long.
That divorce is already there.
It probably was, but it probably
It
could have been
exacerbated.
delayed.
Exacerbated.
It
was
probably could have been
already there.
delayed.
He
But
just made them feel. You just realize, like, I really don't like you.
and she said, and I really don't like you.
Right. It's like that was
Let me-
already there.
But perhaps with medication.
Medication wasn't gonna help that.
right, medication for divorce, for marriage medication. That might be, but
Big
yes.
Pharma need to get on that. Big Pharma gonna get on that now. They're like, man,
Don't, okay, let's write this from it. Cut this part out.
that's that $1 grillion idea right there.
The gazillion. That was a gazillion. That might be your gazillion. They have a reluctance to ask for help or get treatment. And that happened. I spoke last week about someone I spoke with who had depression. And I asked her, because she was dually diagnosed, which means she had a mental illness and she had substance abuse. So she went to substance abuse. And I was asking her, prior to starting using substance, good morning, Evangelist. I said, were she experiencing any kind of depression or something? She said yes. And I said, the city had a whole lot of facilities that you could have gone to, she could have gone to, but a lot of them choose to self-medicate. Lack of understanding by family, friends, or others. That's why I said it is important. If you have a loved one who has a diagnosis, it is important for you to learn all you can. Ask questions, let them feel comfortable, because they do need a safe space. Fewer opportunities for employment or social interaction, bullying, physical violence or harassment, self-doubt, the belief that you will never overcome your illness or be able to achieve what you want in life. That is a sad place to be, because I had a conversation with someone, and what led to that conversation was an overly anxious or attorney, and she says, well, when I get better, can XYZ happen? And I just closed my eyes. I hate people put me in these positions. So I had to explain to her, it's not like you have a drug issue that you can go through treatment for, or you have this, but you also don't have a support system. So I happen to explain all of this instead of, overzealous attorney who don't care about anything but trying to win a case, and it's sad that people don't see the big picture. There's more, everything is not black and white. There are so many instances where it is mostly gray in some areas. The biggest cause of stigma in mental health. Stigma often comes from lack of understanding or fear, inaccurate or misleading media representation of mental illness contribute to both of those factors.
I wanted to just to chirp in with when you talking about harmful effects and stigma, like that self doubt thing is, you know, and he don't mind me talking about it because he'll even talk about it himself. But Gabriel has a stutter, and it's not a severe stutter, but it's a stutter. And I remember when he was in school, how they had like the speech therapist would come out and and she would have sessions with him and everything. And I remember this one time we had met with her, and she was just like, Mr. Wiley, she was like, what do you guys do? What do you guys do with Gabriel at home? And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, because like he knows he stutters, but it's like he doesn't. It's like she's like it doesn't. She said it doesn't affect him. It's like he doesn't think about it.
Right.
And I was like, okay, so I'm like, yeah, that's. I said that's a
Right.
good thing, right? She said, no, that's a great thing. She
Right.
said because he doesn't see it as a deficiency or something that will keep him from achieving or doing whatever. And she
Right.
was just like, what do you? She said, what are your conversations like at home? I was like, just normal
We don't
conversation.
make it a thing.
And and that's
Right.
that's the thing. And I think what when you talk about self doubt, a lot of self doubt often comes from
Other people.
other people, and it makes you start doubting
Feeling lack.
yourself.
Feeling like
And so
less than.
yes, and I think you mentioned something about education and just talking to the people. We gotta stop making folks feel estranged. You know what I'm saying? Like something like even if it is, it's like I remember I had a buddy who had a condition, and he's a real good friend of mine. And I remember when he was diagnosed, and everybody else was kind of doing like the eggshell thing and stuff like that. And you know me, I'm just like, man, what's wrong with you?
Right. Right.
I was like, what's going
Sometimes
on?
that helps. Sometimes.
And he
that
was
helps.
like, and he started telling, and so as he's telling, I was like, oh. I said, well, that's not so bad. I said, you're not as crazy as I thought you was. And he was like, thanks. But what that did was it made him comfortable. Whereas he was just like, okay, so you cool, and I don't have to feel like I have to be a certain way around you. Like that stigma stuff is
It's even
dangerous.
with people who have a disability or something. If they will say, I don't mind you asking questions. I don't, just because they may have a disability, just because they may stutter or they may have a mental illness, that does not mean that they're not a person. They're not a functioning person. There's a lot that they can do.
I remember I worked with a guy who he was burned as a child, right? Some burn victims, people stare. He said, and I remember just asking him, I said, man, do you mind if I ask what happened? And he told me the story and everything. I was like, dude, that's a blessing that you even made it out of that, And he was like, man, I wish more people would just ask me than just staring and just, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I don't mind talking about it.
I think people think that it would be bad to ask questions, but those who are experiencing it, they don't mind. They appreciate, because if you get an understanding of it, it's not catchy. It's not contagious. You can't catch it. So, if you ask someone about it, like you did, they would be, oh, okay. Then they would feel comfortable. But if you just, look at them and kind of pull from them, they feel that. They see that. And they take that on. And if they see that a lot, imagine what they're carrying. Imagine. At what age does 50% of mental illness start? 50% of all lifetime mental illness begins by age of 14 and 75% by age of 24. It can be difficult to talk about mental health due to societal stigma, fear of judgment, and lack of understanding of mental health conditions. Stigma, which is negative beliefs and attitudes towards mental illness, can make individuals feel ashamed or excluded, leading them to avoid discussing their struggles. Fear of being judged or misunderstood can also discourage open communication about mental health. They would appreciate you showing, concern and wanting to understand instead of making assumptions, because you don't know who's right in the car next to you. You don't know who's standing in line at the grocery store behind you. You have to be here, people. I mean, come on.
I'm just
Especially
listen,
with this.
I just don't want to assume.
Right.
I'm just here for the eggs, ma'am.
You all too much. Individual actions to reduce stigma. The National Alliance on Mental Illness offers some suggestions about what we can do as individuals to help reduce the stigma of mental illness. Talk openly about mental health, such as sharing on social media. Educate yourself and others. Respond to misperceptions or negative comments by sharing facts and experiences. Be conscious of language. Remind people that words matter.
Now, you need to expound on that a little bit.
Okay.
Be conscious of language, because some of us are not always politically correct, and though there's no harm or
You don't
malice,
mean harm.
right? There's no harm
Right.
or malice intended. What are, like, even when you refer to mental illness, like, some people don't even like using the term illness, but that's
Mental disorder.
right. So,
What works for them? But see, it's not a one-stop shop.
and I was
some
just about to
people-
ask you, like,
right.
what, because this is your line of work. That's why I'm asking these questions.
But like what you did with your friend, you ask questions. Some people who are have physical disabilities, they don't want to be called handicapped. Some of them don't want to be called handicapped.
So what do you call them?
Physical disability.
Just physical disability?
Mhm.
I guess that makes sense.
So, but whatever it's like, if you are, just say you start a job and somebody come in with whatever, physical disability or mental disability, you just shooting the breeze, talking, getting to know each other. And once you get comfortable, it's like, hey, which term do you like? What did you accept was good for you? And this is not that, but I had a job when I was in college, and I was working in this, the lab, the records part of this clinic at the hospital, and this girl who was working with me, I can tell she's never been that close proximity with somebody with a natural tan. And
Wait a minute. Wait. Can you please repeat what you just said? I need you to speak up just a little bit.
she, I can tell by her reactions that she's never been in this close proximity to someone who has a natural born tan.
That is the politically correct term of saying she ain't worked with black people before.
Words.
I'm gonna have to write that down. But we're talking about words. We're
words
talking
do
about
matter.
words. All right, go ahead.
So, and I think what broke it, the I don't know, the fear or whatever, the uneasiness, was she knew that I had gone to U of I in Urbana, and she asked me if I knew a particular person, and I said, were they black or white? She said white. I said, girl, you know how many white people's down there? So, she,
I
and
don't know if that's the same thing.
so, I mean, we looking for, there's a speck right there. There's a tan right there. So when I said that, she was like, she laughed, and after that, she was more
She got
relaxed.
more comfortable with asking you black questions.
Right.
I worked with a guy like that.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I was his go-to. I was his go-to source for all things black. It was the craziest thing. Mike, let me ask you a question. And I'm like, oh Jesus.
You the spokesperson.
And yeah, I was a spokesperson for every black man in America. It's like I just gotta know, man. Like, and he would just ask me some of the most outlandish things, and he was cool. But I was like, Dave, his name was Dave. He didn't watch it because he white. And I was like, Dave, I said, I don't know. I said, I really believe you a good dude. I said, but you are borderline racist, bro. I just want you to know that. And he was like, he said, but all I know, he said, but Mike, he said, all I ever know was the 3 miles. It was a 3-mile radius around my house. He was like, he said, the first time I saw somebody black was when I started working out of high school. And I was like, I'm sorry for your experience. But yeah, and once he asked me the first question and I answered it.
So you was open.
It was, I'm always, here's the thing. I'm always open for dialogue.
Yeah,
If it's,
me too.
if it's legit dialogue. Now, if I'm not for the foolishness. But but once I answered that one question, he was like, oh
You
man.
made him comfortable.
Right.
Yeah.
Shoes and matching shoes and shirts. I need to know. And it's like, no, you don't. So that
Stacey
part
Adams
though,
or no?
yeah, right.
That was an issue for something else. Evangelist Hibby says it's a lack of understanding of the content of one's challenges that causes people to react towards that person in a way that seems judgmental or unkind. That's why I said it's good to ask questions and to be comfortable. Show them that you are compassion. She want to know where you are. He's right here in the
I'm
first
right
row.
here. You can't see me though, but I'm here. But what's crazy to me is how we live in a society that's dominated by social media, but we talk less
Yes.
than we ever did, like to each other.
Because, okay, I don't know about you, fat finger syndrome. You typing and then you put some
feel
fingers and the wrong letters come. My finger's like, okay, you need to stop.
I do my best
After
proofreading
couple-
after I send my stuff. I'm like, oop.
So, it's like,
Probably
okay,
should've read that
I typed enough. Encourage equality between physical and mental illness. Draw comparisons to how they would treat someone with cancer or diabetes, like I said.
Mm-hmm.
Show compassion for those with mental illness. Be honest about treatment. Normalize mental health treatment just like other health care treatment. Let the media know when they are using stigmatizing language, presenting stories of mental illness in a stigmatizing way. Choose empowerment over shame. Fight stigma by choosing to live an empowered life. That means owning your life and your story and refusing to allow others to dictate how you view yourself or how you feel about yourself.
And I think we talked about this last week, and we were talking about how in the past I always think we've beaten the church up. But how we do, as believers, how we do oftentimes stigmatize those with mental health conditions, because like you said earlier, it's normally dismissed as, oh, you ain't praying enough or you ain't fasting enough or
Right.
whatever. We got to start normalizing that those conditions don't mean that person lack faith,
Right.
and that condition don't mean that person ain't praying or that they don't believe or whatever. And it's just like, this is why folks don't want to talk to you.
See, okay, my question would be, okay, so what do you say about the person who has diabetes?
Right.
Or what do you say about the person who has whatever? What do you say about that? Do they need to get saved? Do they need to be on an altar? They're going to pray.
Right.
Of course you're going to pray.
Pray for your pancreas. It's like, all right.
I mean, take care of your pancreas. That's why I started this month about, I hate that term, good mental health, or
But is that a
where you-
but is that a term?
Yes,
I meant to
yes,
ask you. Is that
yes,
a term? Okay.
Yes. And because a lot came up with good mental health. But what I wanted to say about that is to show how you're all one person, mind, body, soul, and spirit. If you take care of yourself, because there's some mental illness that's genetic. But if it's something that's brought on by stress or your lifestyle or something, those things can be alleviated if you take care of yourself. When we were talking about that through the Women's Month, you and Evangelist Denise was talking about the different, medications, natural vitamins that you can take, supplements, but it's taking care of yourself. And I'm about to get into this. How to care for mental health. Practice self-care. Find a community of support. Talk about your mental health and seek help if you're experiencing mental distress. To combat stress, incorporating self-care activities like exercise, mindfulness, and social connection can be highly beneficial. These activities can help reduce stress, improve mood, and enhance overall well-being. Physical self-care, exercise. Engage in physical activity like walking, yoga, or any form of movement that you enjoy. Exercise releases endorphins, which have mood-boosting effects. Sleep. Prioritizing getting enough sleep. Try. Aim for 7-8 hours of quality sleep per night to allow your body and mind to rest and recover. Nutrition. I have a sweat day. Eat balanced and nutritious diet. Focus on whole foods, fruits, vegetables, and lean proteins to fuel your body and mind. Hydration. And that's another thing can exhibit some things. Hydration. You're not being hydrated.
So if I'm drinking enough water,
Well, just think about, okay, you know about you hear a story about being in the desert. You see
the
oasis. Yeah, you
hallucinations
can
and
see-
everything.
yeah.
Okay, all right. That's
And
like extreme thirst, though, ain't it?
But
Who that
it-
thirsty?
But if it affects, if you're dehydrated, they say, when you're dehydrated, if you get thirsty, you're already dehydrated. If you're thirsty. Nature. Spend time in nature. God knew what he was doing, such as taking a walk in a park, or sitting in your garden. Nature can have a calming effect and reduce stress. Mental health and self-care. Mindfulness. Practice mindfulness techniques like meditation or deep breathing to bring your focus to the present moment and reduce stress. Social connection. Connect with friends and family members. Sharing your thoughts and feelings with others can provide support and reduce feelings of isolation. That touch is not just for babies, it's for people. You still need to that contact. Hobbies. Engage in activities and hobbies that you enjoy, such as reading, listening to music, or crafting.
Do you have any hobbies
Yes.
besides skiing?
Yes. Oh, I miss it so much. Yes.
What?
I've been crafting, making different things, and I'm a reader.
Do you crochet?
I did, and when they had carpal tunnels kicked in, and I was like, sorry, because I just doing it on the bus, on the train, morning to night. So
I am a collector, and I build. I love models. Like, yeah, I enjoy. It's something about. Listen, I don't discriminate. I don't care what it is. It can be Legos. It can be a model car. I actually was looking at this thing. It was an actual model of an engine, and you can build a literal mini working engine. And I'm almost
yeah, whatever you do,
Yeah.
whatever you can find, like humor.
that stuff, man. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is about that. That really, it does something for me. But anyway,
we talked about this humor. Watch a funny movie, a show, or spend time with people who make you laugh. Humor can be a great stress relief. Journaling. Write down your thoughts and feelings in a journal. This can help you process emotions and gain clarity. Setting boundaries. Learn to say no to things that overwhelm you. Prioritize your needs. Self-compassion. Practice self-compassion by being kind and understanding towards yourself, especially during difficult times. Other tips, relaxation techniques. I'm going to do time management, breaks. Take the breaks. Seek support. If you're struggling with stress, don't hesitate to seek support from friends, family, or even a mental health professional. What things or activities do you do to relieve stress? You like to
hobbies. I
Hobbies.
mean, I like building and I like my models and collecting stuff. Okay, this may sounds weird, especially as an adult.
But it's you.
But well, okay, I don't know how I should take that. But
I know what you're going to say.
what am I gonna say?
Coloring.
I do enjoy coloring. God dang it. Yeah, I enjoy coloring. It's some I don't know what it is, Kathy. It's something about coloring that just
They have coloring books for adults,
I know.
and it's for stress
I have
relief.
bought a couple.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like
So,
man, look, and I don't use crayons. I
No
do the
pencil?
pencils, man.
So, okay, what do you all do for stress relief? What activities?
And stay safe.
That laugh. See, I'm scared of that comment.
Yeah, I
Come
was
from
like,
that laugh.
man, you keep it saved.
It's always been music for me, so I play the drums, I DJ, I create playlists, I make clothes.
So go into music.
Yeah,
Okay.
I do a little bit of everything.
Like
I
little
do like
music
crossword
stuff.
puzzles though.
Okay.
Also,
Yeah, I
that's
love a
another
good
one.
So
crossword.
Yeah.
if you were talking to someone who was going through a stressful time, what suggestion would you give them?
I will ask them 3 things that they enjoy doing, because you find stress relief in something that you're passionate about.
Because usually when someone is going through a really stressful time, they're not thinking of that. They're in it.
Mhm.
They are in it. When should you seek professional help? Seek professional help if you are experiencing severe or distressing symptoms that have lasted 2 weeks or more, such as difficulty sleeping, changes in appetite or unplanned weight changes, difficulty getting out of bed in the morning because of mood, difficulty concentrating, loss of interest in things that you usually find enjoyable, inability to complete usual tasks and activities, feelings of irritability, frustration, or restlessness. Treatment. If you're experiencing symptoms of mental breakdown, you can seek support from a mental health professional, family, or friends. With treatment and guidance, you can gradually recover. Find out more about maintaining good mental health. If you're struggling to feel happy, cope with everyday life, find meaning, or feel connected to others, you can talk to your doctor or mental health professional. If you're concerned about a friend or loved one, ask them how you can help. The first step for a person with symptoms of a mental health disorder is to seek doctor or other healthcare professionals. I have a lot of scriptures, but I wanted to I have a list of things that I wanted to put on the board. I apologize that we didn't get to have it. I wanted to list or post it so people can see that there are places for them to get help.
We can-
Please
we
do
can
not
always-
struggle alone.
We can always post it in the comment section. We can
Okay,
yeah, we'll post
I sent it to you.
Yeah, I'll post
Okay,
it. We can-
so if you're not in, I went through things that's in Illinois. So if you're not in Illinois, you can just research for your state, and they will have listed places that you can go to get the help that you need. Any more questions?
yeah, I think
I can read the scriptures because I was the time because we're running out.
no, it's good. Yeah, because
I'll just-
we Sunday school, so
Right, because
we always got to get scriptures. So I thought it would be cool if as you was talking, and I was looking at the lesson while I was getting ready this morning. I got a few scriptures for
okay, cool.
like for some counters, if you will. You know
Okay.
what I'm saying? Because it's just like everything. The Bible has an answer for everything, or a counter for all the things that we
Yes,
experience.
yes.
So, for instance, if you anxiety disorders, you got Philippians 4:6-7, right? Don't be anxious, because the peace of God will guard your heart and minds and your mind in Jesus Christ. Depression, you got Psalms 34:18, right? The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit.
Mm-hmm.
PTSD trauma, Isaiah 43:2. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you, and they will not overwhelm you. Bipolar disorder, Ecclesiastes 1-4, that everything there is a season and a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance. There's a time for everything. And what you may be experiencing may just be that time for that thing. You know, OCD. We take captive every thought and make it obedient to
Right.
Christ. Eating disorders. I praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I thought that one was funny because, you know, it's all about self-acceptance. But then you also need to do better. And I'm talking from experience. Addiction. 1 Corinthians 10-13. God is faithful and he will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. He will also provide a way out. And then even if you're dealing with grief, Matthew 5:4, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And there are so many other
There's so
scriptures,
many,
you
yes.
know, that can counter the things that we're going through. And here's the thing. It's not a dismissal, right, of the things that you may be experiencing. Like
Right.
those scriptures are to help you,
Right.
you know, because really all we want to do is to shift your perspective. Because a lot of times we focus so much on the problem that we oftentimes miss
Right.
the solution.
You have that.
You know, that tunnel vision
Yes.
is crazy. So, but no, this is good stuff. You had good stuff all this month. A lot of information.
Yes,
A
I
lot.
just it
of
is a lot. It is a
information.
lot, and I wanted to get it out.
And I don't even think you really scratched the surface, to be honest.
No. It is so much.
Yeah,
It is so much. But I just wanted, what I wanted to bring is just to bring awareness.
absolutely.
And this is Awareness Month. Because a lot of times, I worked as a child advocate. Everyone, because I talk about Leaf CFS. And I am a fierce advocate when it comes to kids. If you see a child who is going through, if you see a child, you don't have to be a teacher or counselor or a police officer to be a mandated reporter. If you see a child in danger, you can be that mandated reporter because you have that compassion for that child and you don't know what you are saving that child from. Evangelist Sibby says, I have asked myself what is something that I would like to do as a hobby and I get nothing. I just don't know. Well, just
Tell Evangelist Sibby she needs to get back to her podcast, and that's all I'm gonna say about that.
Okay, he just gave you your answer.
Cause she
She used to do podcasts.
she did shit. I ain't gonna even
Okay,
talk
so,
about it.
so Brother Mike just
But
gave
she
you the
heard me.
answer.
I'm here, and you
She-
heard what I
yeah.
said.
So if you see someone, because sometimes mental illness can be a result of trauma. And if you see a child or a woman or someone who's going through something, see something, say something. You know, be careful for yourself because you don't need, because, if it's a child, you don't need DCFS to take custody. The police can do it. So just bear that in mind. I want to thank you all, and I hope that I brought something out that make you think and make you more comfortable if you meet someone who may have a mental illness or a mental disorder, and make you feel comfortable where you can see them as people. That's all I want you to see them as people and not as defected people, because we all have something.
All of us got.
We all-
Can you
if-
say that again, please?
We all have something.
Thank you.
If you have a bum knee, we all have something. So one thing, like they say, sin is sin.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that is a sin, but there's no difference from one to the other. We all have something. It's no different from one to the other. And especially because I know someone who was diagnosed, and when I was explaining to the family, I broke down what this person had gone through from their childhood. And it made the family stop and say, I didn't think of it that way. So you don't know what can affect somebody. We are not all living these pristine bubble lives where everything is perfect. So she heard you.
Yeah, I
Okay.
know. Good
So
stuff.
get busy.
Get busy.
So I just want to thank you guys for your input. If you were in Chicago, I hope you enjoyed it. So if you were in Chicago, find your place here,
354 West 71st Street in Chicago, Illinois.
71st and Stewart. You all have a blessed day. Take care.